Yes, Willis. Bruce Willis. Bald Willis. Bald Willies.
Eavesdroppin.
Well, hello there, Michelle.
Well, ho, 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 hello, Geordie. It's the Christmas season.
It is the Christmas season. Welcome to all of you eavesdroppers, by the way. I'm Geordie.
And I'm Michelle. You're listening to Eavesdroppin, the comedy podcast.
And if you're a regular listener, like in the last 4 years since we've been doing this goddamn show, you'll know that every December we play this little jingle just to remind you what's going on. It's that time when you have mulled wine. Last week, Michelle pointed out that you can have eggnog on your face for some reason. I don't know why. I wouldn't use it as moisturiser personally.
Why not? It's natural. No, look, eggnog, I think it's best consumed.
Absolutely. The drunken office party.
Of course. What else is Christmas? Stuffed stockings.
Stocking stuffers.
Yes.
Present buying, I think, is probably where we're all at the moment.
You know, we've decided no gifts in my family.
Good. I like it that way. It's such a waste of money. It's such a waste of resources. Just little food-based gifts for those that you see, or some kind of...
Consumable. Consumable.
Yeah. Just a nice thought.
Yes, a perishable. I do think that, I mean, look, my house has too much stuff. We were talking about this earlier. I have too much stuff in my house. I want less stuff.
Yep.
But I'll take a food-based gift.
Yeah, because that will just go in your gob and it will be all gone before you know it.
If you have a food-based gift, you generally tend to eat them. But if you get a gift you don't want, what do we do with unwanted gifts? What do you do?
Charity shop.
Charity
shop or re-gift.
That's it. That's what I do too. I either charity store or re-gift. I know.
Yeah.
Because I don't believe in waste. I don't like to waste something.
I don't believe in it. It doesn't exist in Michelle's world. Bit like Santa Claus. So if we're going back to the Christmas season, just so we can segue into our jingle, what else reminds you of Christmas, Michelle, around this time of year? The pre-Christmas lead up. Have you decorated your house? Have you got a real tree? Have you got a sustainable one?
Well, we always get a real tree. They're the only ones available in our village. We live in a forest.
Don't you have IKEA? Can't you get one of those little placky ones that you can keep putting up every year?
We could get a placky one, I guess, but we have real trees in the village. They're cheap. And then afterwards, and this is what I like, because it is generally a real tree village, there are big drop-off points where you can dump your Christmas tree and they get put in the wood chipper and then they go on all the walking paths over the snow.
Okay.
So the tourists can walk. So you are helping.
You're helping the
Yes.
environment. A friend of mine has asked about sustainable Christmas trees because apparently these pine forests, which are dedicated just to Christmas trees, aren't a good use of resources, isn't good for the earth, etc., etc. So I wonder if you can find out how you got your Christmas tree, where it came from, where was its source of origin. And on that bright note about the planet burning, let's have our jingle. It's Christmas, everybody. Ho, ho, ho. 1, 2, 3. It's Christmas every Wednesday in December. Drop the me, so will you drop with me? Drop, drop, drop. Sexy Santa in a place to drop, play to. What a hoot! What a hoot! So, Michelle, after last week's episode, which was, what did we talk about? Oh, yes, it was the Christmas kidnapping, and you had Christmas bits and pieces like and the hoarder.
Yes.
Yeah. And you also discussed, you actually gave a little review of the film The Substance, which you saw. And you were saying about the actress, the younger actress.
Margaret Qualley.
What's her name? Margaret
Qualley.
Yeah. Apparently she has an incredible body. You weren't sure if it was real or if it was AI'd. Well, we had a message from a listener.
Oh, yes.
Shari. She also got very excited when she heard you talking about it. She has some information. Here we are.
Oh my God, I'm just listening to your latest episode, Geordie, and just let Michelle know that Margaret Qualley, who plays the younger version of Demi, go onto IMDb because I think it's in IMDb. Fun fact, they aren't her tits. So she admitted that they were prosthetic tits to make her body absolutely fucking proportionally perfect in the eyes of fuck knows who, and they're not real. So I'll see if I can find it on IMDb and send it to you. But I don't know if I said I was actually disturbed watching that. Like, I went to Dendy Cinema, thought I'd take myself out on a movie date, went to see it. I couldn't even watch the last 15 minutes, 10 minutes. I was done. Like, I sat there and just closed my eyes. I couldn't do anymore. It was a sensory overload, but it's actually brilliant. And the message behind it is pretty powerful. So it's kind of sad in a way, kind of sad. And just the, standards expected of us as women, aging women by stupid ass men.
Well, that's interesting what she's just said there about the message. Obviously, there's not just body horror and shock and perfectly naked bodies. There's a message.
Of course there's a message.
Did you get the message, Michelle, or did that pass you by?
Rude, Geordie, rude. You cannot help but get the message. You are hit over the head.
You did not mention the message last time.
No, I didn't.
About the aging process.
There's a shot of Demi. There's a scene where she's looking in the mirror. She's meant to be going out on this date with this awful guy from her younger years who just gave her a bit of attention, and she's meant to go out on a
Emilio
date.
Estevez.
Oh, my God, if only. No, Emilio. Rob Lowe.
That was her boyfriend when she did St. Elmo's Fire.
It was. I mean, she went out with, what's his name? The baldy one.
It was just Emilio. Then she was married to...
Bald guy.
Bald Willis.
Yes, Willis.
Bruce Willis.
Bald Willis. Bald Willis. Now, I...
Stop that.
There's a scene where she's looking in the mirror. I mean, she looks absolutely fucking gorgeous. Anyone who had that body at that age. I mean, she's had a lot of plastic surgery and a lot of work, but she looks great. But she's looking in the mirror and you can just tell she can't be satisfied with how she looks. She's taking off that makeup, she's redoing it, and it's just getting worse and worse. And she's just thinking, you stupid old bitch, you can't even leave the house, you're so old and ugly. That was the message in that scene. And I thought, you know what?
Oh, gosh.
I've had that. I've looked in the mirror and just thought, especially when you've been around children with perfect skin and no wrinkles, and you just think, what's going on with me? But we all age.
What do we do about about dealing with the fact that we age and being happy within ourselves? Because with age comes wisdom, and with wisdom comes a sense of knowing yourself better.
And acceptance.
And I think that's a gift, yeah.
Well, it's about acceptance.
Absolutely. It's a shame that we have to keep trying to look incredible. I mean, I am guilty of that too. I like to put on makeup. I like to wear nice clothes.
I dye my hair, for God's sake.
Dye their hair.
It's not so much for me about what others will perceive. It's about how I feel about myself. And honestly, it changes day to day. And obviously your looks and your hair don't change from day to day, but your perception of your looks. So I can wake up one day and go, oh my God, my hair is amazing. I look great. My skin's so glowy. And the next day I'll be thinking,
what's the point of me?
You fucking wrinkly bitch. So it's really a mental game, and it's about winning the mental game and being happy with yourself. And the substance is very powerful. You know, certainly Shari had said about men's opinions of what a perfect woman should be like, and also the sensory overload of this film. Well, is
it men's?
Yes, it is. It
right,
is.
The sensory overload. The sensory overload is interesting. I don't know if I could manage that. I think I'm quite sensitive to sensorial overloads. I have to block my ears during horror films and other films.
This horror film, because it is a body horror film, and in fact, I've said this last time, the first 3/4 of that film are the most terrifying because of the way that it's a very psychological film in many ways. But they also have the sensorial overload where, and Shari will know what I'm talking about, the guy is eating shrimp. There's a lot of eating sounds. There's a lot of... But there's also a lot of just sounds like...
God.
For everything. They've pumped up the disgusting sounds on this film.
Wow.
And they are quite sickening. But interesting that Margaret Qualley's tits are fake. I mean, it would be mean to have somebody as perfect as her.
Okay.
She had to at least have something not real. Very nice to know that it's something we shouldn't strive for because it's not real.
Because she's not real. Speaking of recommendations, because we've talked about that bloody film for too long, I have a recommendation, but it's not a film. It's not a podcast. It is actually an account on Instagram.
Okay.
So I like watching these videos. Michelle, I have showed you them before and I've tagged you. This one is called Todo Casi Bien. So it's TODO CASIBIEN, and he's like a sound engineer of some kind where he takes away the music of a video, and it's all those ones that we remember from the 80s, like Rolling Stones or Kiss. At the moment there's one of Kiss, there's a few of Kiss. The one of them doing I Was Made for Loving You is insane. When Paul Stanley does that high-pitched vocal solo, he does a little quick suck and a lick at the end. Which he's dubbed over, and it's hilarious. You've got to go and see that. And then for the song Jump by Van Halen, that's ridiculous. One of the guitarists is burping throughout. And then there's a tap dancing Prince, and at the end of, I guess it must be for Dove's Cry or something, he coos like a dove at the end. It's just so funny. I can watch it again and again and laugh and laugh. So if you want something funny to scroll on, I would recommend Todo Casi Bien's Instagram page.
Oh,
it's
wonderful.
funny.
I will check that out, and I will link that up in the Patreon, which is where you go for all your show links, some bits and pieces.
Correct.
I'll put some bits and pieces
Drop some
up.
coins in. You can enjoy Michelle's bits and pieces and other things, and a monthly drop of an extra bit of podcasting.
Yes. We had a
Hopefully.
video last month. Book club.
Yep,
I forgot to
book
bring
club
some
video.
books, but you never know. Maybe I'll do better next time. Speaking also of behind the scenes things, well, it was actually a recommendation by, I do believe, Safka and Shari, the Do They Know It's Christmas behind the scenes. And we did watch that last night, Geordie. And
We watched it.
we did. And we had a chuckle. Our favourite part, well, my favourite part was status quo. They were fucking hilarious.
Oh my
Useless.
God.
They could not sing. They were
They were the oldest people in the room as well, bless them.
Funny.
Whatever you want.
Whatever you like.
I know.
No, they were. It was fantastic. I loved seeing all the blowouts.
Down, deeper and down. Yeah, the hair was insane. As you quite rightly pointed out about Simon Le Bon's hair, very Princess Di, but then so was George Michael and everybody else. Everybody had the 80s dye blowout.
Spandau Ballet.
They turned up in full
did.
leather. So many pairs of trousers that were leather in that room. And we thought that Paul Young was the nicest, the most down-to-earth and the best dressed.
He
didn't
was
we,
just
Michelle?
a lovely chap.
White T-shirt, flat-fronted black trousers, gorgeous.
Let's not forget Sting. Sting before he had the nose job and the
Sting
teeth.
was the best
He
looking. Did he have a nose job?
Oh, yes.
How do you... I didn't notice.
Do you know what? Go to the Patreon. I'm going to do a side-by-side.
Okay. And of course, your doppelganger, his wife, Trudy Styler.
Fuck you. Oh,
And
that
she
is
looked
so
younger.
rude. I don't know why people... She's blonde for a start. I wouldn't mind being married to Sting. But yes, he was so gorgeous, although he did have that weird bob.
It was...
Strange bob.
It was one of those, what do you call it, carpet bangs? No,
No.
that's not it. Curtain bangs.
Sort of.
Bob.
Sort of. It was very strange. It was like a page
It's
boy
an
grown
unfortunate
out.
hairstyle, yeah.
Face was
But he wasn't the
gorgeous.
worst hair there.
No, he did not have the worst hair.
Paul Weller had that hair too. He looked ridiculous. But what did he do in Do They Know It's Christmas? He just kind of turned up. I liked it when they did the acoustic version. It's a shame that Geldof was singing, but... It was fun to hear all the guitars. And those Spandau boys look like a lot of fun.
I have spoken a little bit about Americans. I spoke to you off mic about this.
You did.
Americans do not like that song.
Do They Know It's Christmas? There's some lines in there that they didn't like.
They think it's condescending. They don't get it. I don't think that maybe Australians or the Brits ever took it in this way. I think we understood the message behind it. But the Americans take the line,
Tonight, thank God it's them instead of you. That's Bono's line.
yes, they take it literally like we're saying, thank God it's those kids out there
And not
starving
us,
and
yeah.
not us. No, that's not really the message. It's irony. It's not even irony. It's...
Well, if you were to go line by line, actually, Michelle, I was feeling a little uncomfortable last night when I was watching the documentary with you. And I didn't bring it up because I just thought I just want to enjoy looking at
that
John
80s
Taylor from Duran Duran.
and the fashions.
Yeah, I think line by line, it's a bit simplistic and it's a
Yes.
bit, do they know, calling them they throughout. And
Yeah.
I don't know, those poor bastards over there. And do they know it's Christmas? Does it matter if it's Christmas? Neil from The Young Ones said, what about Hanukkah? What about Ramadan?
Yeah.
Does it matter? I mean, he was actually trying to make a joke because he was in comedy character mode. But you know what? As we said, it was a good thing to do. It was the only skills they had. It was all they could manage to do to support the Ethiopian famine, which Bob Geldof obviously was so moved by, and everybody else at the time. And then we talked about the remake, which Harry Styles or someone is in, and the other guy, the redhead guy, Ed Sheeran. And apparently they are a bit reluctant to be involved with it, or they've done it and they don't like it or something.
Yeah, they're a bit embarrassed that they said yes to it.
But then we said, why rehash it? Why redo a song from a time to make money for a cause where you could probably just dip into your own coffers, mate, and you'd make enough money to support them. We don't need you. We don't need you in your redos. Back then it was a different time. There was less money about for the music and the arts, that's for sure.
No, look, I think definitely the lyrics and not the motivation, but the way they were speaking about it is of the time. Certainly we've become more culturally evolved in the way we use language to convey those things, those sentiments, and wanting to help. But it was from the bottom of people's hearts. You know, they really wanted to dig deep, use their skills for good. Yes, maybe it's of its time, but I tell you what else is of its time, the cover, where you've got those two naked Ethiopian children with the ribs showing. It was a bit much,
front,
of that artwork.
Confrontational, but that was the idea. You know, this is Catherine Hamnett and her kind of hit you between the eyes kind of big words on your T-shirt, feed the world and all of that kind of thing. It was about clonking people over the head with imagery.
But it was a good watch and we enjoyed it. We did.
Giggles. So thank you for the recs. Guys, keep them coming. We do love a television rec. And if you are stuck for things to watch over the silly season, then you need to, like I say, buy us a cup of chai tea or eggnog over on patreon.com/eavesdroppin and sign up as our Patreon. You can do it for as little as, I don't know, is it £2, $2? I don't know. And you have access.
Gift it. It's the gift-giving season.
Gift it to your mum or your gran or your boyfriend.
Oh, they'd love you for it.
Absolutely. They would love that because we are producing this content for you for free. It's only right that you give us a little tip now and then, and we keep giving back. So Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry fucking Christmas. Guess what? Did you know aliens are real? The Earth is actually flat and you can have sex with a ghost.
Open your eyes, dear. This week, Michelle, I have updates from Season 3, Episode 25 and Season 4, Episode 46.
Okay.
So we've done 2 episodes where we've mentioned time slips. And Michelle and I have gone as far to exclaim that we think time slips might be a bleed between dimensions, possibly the 4th dimension. And when we see ghosts, they're nothing but an overlap of dimensions where the veil is thin.
Right.
We have said that before. You probably don't remember because you look a bit confused right now.
I'm not confused. I just don't. I just thought, wow, she's been very articulate. Did I say that?
I think we pondered the possibility. And if you recall, I told you, Michelle, and the other droppers about historian, I think I called him Arthur, but his name's actually Arnold Toynbee's Timeslip, where he saw all of history parade past him at Victoria Station. I find that fascinating. Was that man just on mushrooms or is he just really special? But our favourite story of Timeslips was the Bold Street shopping street in the centre of Liverpool.
Where it was more than one.
And famous. It's famous actually around there for a landmark called St. Luke's Bombed Out Church. I don't know about that. I'm going to have to take another visit to Liverpool and go and check it out. But around this area was the site of a famous time slip from the early 90s where ex-policeman Frank was shopping in Bold Street. His wife and he separated. She said, meet me in Waterstones. But when he walked in, he noticed that the front of the store looked different for a start. It was called Cripps. And when he went in, it wasn't a bookshop. It was an old-fashioned women's wear store. And there was another woman there who looked at him and she looked really surprised. And they were both looking around, looking shocked. And then they both walked out and looked at each other and said, wow, that was weird. and then parted ways. Now, when Danny Robbins did this on his Uncanny TV show recently, Kieran, his skeptic, said, well, that could just be, there's no evidence of that. That's probably just urban legend. But of course, Danny Robbins found the woman who was in the shop. I told you this before. She's forgotten.
Oh, I've forgotten. Of course I've forgotten.
It's like telling you.
Hey, it was a couple of seasons ago. I don't
right.
have memory retention for that long.
It was earlier this year, but never mind. So he interviewed her and she remembered all of this stuff. So I did a little digging of my own and I found a little update from the December 2024 issue of the Fortean Times, that's this month, about time slips in Bold Street specifically.
Oh.
There's been more. Rob Gandy is one of their feature writers at Fortean Times, and he wrote in this month's magazine that two of his friends had two different experiences, strange time anomalies, in Liverpool, in Bold Street area. Rob first heard his friend David Barton's story in 2022, and then followed a story by his other pal William in 2023. And neither of Rob's friends knew Liverpool well at the time. They were both visiting at separate occasions. So David's story is about the time in the 70s when he applied for a job in Liverpool, which would put David in his early 20s, and he went to a job interview on Bold Street. And back then it was a much quieter street. Now it's like pretty buzzy, but back then it was quieter. David didn't know the city well, and he was from Stockport. So the interview was scheduled for 7 p.m. It was winter. It was going to be dark. He didn't want to be late or look for parking for ages, so he set off earlier, parked his car near the Liver building, which meant that he had to walk through the city centre towards Bold Street. Liverpool city centre. He got to the end of the street where the interview officers were, realised he was 20 minutes early, so he went back down Bold Street to kill a bit of time. Of course, the shops were all shut and there were no street lights, but he noticed one with a dim light coming out of it. It was a small shop window about 20 yards ahead of him on his left, and he felt that this shop had a Dickensian look. 2 stories high, plain doors and windows, doesn't remember if there's any signs. He peered through the window and saw inside a dusty display of violins in various states of disrepair. So he assumed that this was a violin workshop of some kind. And then he noticed beyond the shop front that there was an orange light emanating from the back room.
Okay.
So he just assumed someone was in there. So he walked on back to his appointment, got the job. That meant he needed to visit Liverpool, those offices on Bold Street, over the next few weeks for training.
Yeah.
So he went back to look for this violin shop that really fascinated him, but he couldn't locate it. So David didn't stay on with the company. He had another offer which was better, and he took that. But he never got that violin shop out of his mind. And somehow he and Rob, his friend, who's also the features writer for Fortean Times, got chatting about it. So Rob thought, maybe I can help you out, David. So Rob did some research. He contacted Liverpool Central Library, the local university libraries, and all current local violin makers and repairers in Liverpool. And he discovered there had been a shop fitting David's description in the area called Lawrence Naseby and Son, about 150 yards from the office where David had his interview. But David didn't think it was this shop because it looked too big and it didn't fit the description.
Right.
So they searched through old photos surrounding the area, but nothing rang a bell for David, so they searched back further than the 70s.
Okay.
2 companies were listed, both on Bold Street, but with different owners, which did fit the description for David. But it was impossible to know because there were no pictures.
Right.
But Rob felt really strongly that because David said the shop looked Dickensian, that David had experienced a time slip. He thought that the orange light sounded more like 19th century gas and oil lighting rather than the bright white electric lighting that would have been around at the 70s. But of course, this is just a theory and it can't be proven.
But I would agree. I think 70s is too early.
Modern.
Well, or too late. They need to go back further. Wow.
Yeah. But then Rob's other friend, William Stevens, told his story. And that also rang a time slip bell for Rob. It was summer 2013. So much more recently. There was a well-known West Midlands mod scooter band recording in Liverpool's famous Parr Street studios. William's a mod and an enthusiast of 60s music, and he would have been in his late 40s when this happened. He and another friend were invited to come to Liverpool for the recording session of his favourite band, and they stayed at a hotel over the weekend, and then by the end of the recording session on Sunday, they were preparing to go. They were in the studio, but William got a bit bored, so he went for a wander around the area. And this is about 1:30 in the afternoon. So he started at the top of a street, which is parallel to Parr Street where the studios were. There was a record store called Harry Records located there. It's the UK's oldest record shop. Obviously, it held a lot of interest for William, so he went and had a riffle through. He wanted to head over there to have a little look through the records there and pass some time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, William had that day a mild headache, but as he walked towards the store, he noticed the headache get worse and it turned into a migraine.
Oh.
What William normally does when experiencing a migraine is to look down at his feet. It makes him feel better. So he did that, but when he looked up, he felt like everything had changed.
Okay.
Instead of a long straight street, it was flat open area, loads of children playing, no shops. William remembers that some of the kids had a go-kart. Across the roads on either side were long rows of houses, and in the distance, he recalls being aware of ships.
Right.
There is a dock in Liverpool.
Where? I mean, I've only been to Liverpool once. I don't know the...
The docks is famous for its docks.
Yes, that's true.
To his right, across the street, were two middle-aged women chatting on the doorsteps of their houses, wearing pinafores and carrying brushes he assumed were for cleaning their doorsteps. As he watched then, a couple of middle-aged men wearing late 40s or early 50s Max and Trilby hats walked up the street past the women. The two men stopped and looked strangely at William before walking away. This is fucking just mental, really, if you think about it. At this point, his migraine got even worse and his nose began to bleed as if everything was under lots of pressure.
Yeah.
It was so bad that he felt if he carried on down the street, then things would get worse. So he turned around, went back, retraced his steps. That's when everything returned to normal, and William found himself leaning on the wall by Harry Records. He figured that whole thing had taken about 10 to 15 minutes, but just then his friend came round the corner and asked him where the hell he had been, because he'd been looking for him all over the city centre. And it's now about 7:30 in the evening.
Oh.
And his friend had been calling William's mobile all afternoon. William checked his phone and he saw the battery was completely dead.
Right.
Apparently, William looked really bad. So his friend shoved him in the back of the car on Parr Street, drove him home to the West Midlands.
I thought you were going to say to a doctor or something if he didn't look good.
No, he took him home. But it was Sunday evening now. He fell asleep and he didn't wake up till he was dropped off outside his house, and he has no memory of how he got there. Obviously, his friend drove him. Parr Street Studios runs parallel to Bold Street. So he was in that area.
Yes.
And Rob Gandy was convinced William had a classic time slip where he found himself witnessing and interacting with a scene from the past, in addition to a missing time element where he thought he was gone 10 to 15 minutes, but it was actually 6 hours. That happened for our French ladies in Versailles, which I told you about back in season 3. So it turned out that William had never heard of Bold Street or Frank's famous time slip in the 90s. Could it be that Bold Street and its surroundings, Michelle, is one of those places where the veil is thin? Because it's a real hot spot.
I think that if we think about the warp and weft of time...
What? The what and who? The who and the what?
The warp and the weft of time. You know, the way that fabric...
Right, so it's now cloth, fabric.
The fabric
yes.
has been constructed. You know, there's a tear in this fabric.
Yeah.
Or it's like a piece of fabric that's been so worn.
That it's thin.
It's thin, it's see-through, it's
Yeah.
got a few rips, a few tears, and maybe some things fall through.
For all these people to have these experiences, I am starting to wonder. And you know me, I like to have an explanation for everything, but I am open because David and William's stories have actually now been added to the Bold Street time slip episodes. Even though both experiences were quite different, they had a lot in common with other Bold Street cases. And to be honest, Michelle, I wasn't aware there were so many because there have been quite a few. Most people go back into the Victorian era while others find themselves in the 50s or 60s. And there's a whole Reddit page dedicated to Bold Street time slips. There's a guy called This Is Hugh on Reddit. He wrote on a thread 8 years ago after experiencing his own time slips in Liverpool. He had heard about a shoplifter called Sean who got spotted by a security guard mid-theft back in 2006. Sean made a run for it, trying to shake off the security guard that was chasing him. He turned into a dead-end street called Brooks Alley, out of breath and aware of a tight sensation in his chest. He noticed the atmosphere around him changing, and this was what caused his tightening airways. He waited for the guard to come around the corner after him, but he never showed. He thought he'd given him the slip, so he returned to Hanover Street again, but something wasn't right. The road and the pavement looked different. Cars looked old-fashioned. There was roadworks previously. They were gone now. He knew that there was roadworks there. He saw that all the people around him were wearing strange clothes. He crossed over to Bold Street and noticed there were traffic lights where there hadn't been before, and bushes growing around the Lyceum near a bar that he recognised. That was all different. He continued walking, but as things made less sense, he started to panic.
Like, where the fuck am I?
Yeah, he was pretty sure he'd slipped back in time and it wasn't changing back. Then he remembered he had a mobile. So he got it out, he looked for the signal, but of course he couldn't get any signal. So now he's really freaking out. He spotted a kiosk selling newspapers and looked at a paper's front page and saw the date, 18th of May, 1967. So now he's shitting himself. He thinks he'll never see his family and friends again. So he walked into a jewellery store, H. Samuel, tried his phone again. This time it worked. And when he looked around him, he saw that everything was back to normal again.
Oh.
But then when he looked down the road, Michelle, he could still see people. He could still see people walking around in 1967.
Right. Because if that was me, I would be like, okay, I've got no signal, but I've got a camera. Why didn't you take pictures of that newspaper of where you were? If they had been on his phone...
Good thinking.
That's what I would have tried to do. But, obviously he was probably freaked out.
Didn't think to do that, Sean, you divvy. Sean actually told newspapers about his experience because I thought, is this just fan fiction? I never know whether to trust Reddit or not. But actually there was, in the Liverpool Echo, a story about Sean, a couple of them actually. And he said that the security guard was also interviewed and that when he ran after Sean, he said when he went down the dead-end alley after him, Sean had completely disappeared.
That was my next thing.
Yeah.
Did he disappear? And does this account for people who just there 1 second, gone the next?
Gone the next.
Could this be an explanation?
The interviewer said that they had spoken to him 4 times and his story never changed, by the way. And Hugh has a theory. This is Hugh has a theory about it all. He says that there's a circular underground system beneath the streets and that's to blame.
Oh, why?
Well, if you look at the map of the underground, it forms concentric circles directly beneath Bold Street and Brooks Alley. And most of the incidents that are reported take the person back to the 50s and 60s, occasionally the 19th century, but never before the Underground Railway was built.
I'm not sure I understand what he's getting at.
Well, there's a massive hole under the ground. There's railways. There's electric systems. There's an electric railway under there.
Yeah.
That seems to be the point of time where it goes back to. It's just a thought. You can think about it, Michelle. Have a think.
I will. I'll think about it.
The earth has been moved. Ley lines.
Yes, ley lines, yeah.
Talking about energy
Yes,
shifting.
okay.
You're talking about tears in the fabric and the weft and the weave of the fabric of time. Well, perhaps something has disrupted that. A massive, great big hole in the ground.
Yes.
An electric train system.
Okay.
I'm going to go to Liverpool and I'm going to ride that underground. I didn't know it was there.
Shall we go together?
Let's go to Liverpool.
Let's go. Monday.
Let's not do it on Monday.
Wonderful stories. Really something to think about. Time slips are endlessly fascinating.
I mean, there are so many more stories as well, Michelle, about it. I just didn't have time to tell you them all.
Well, save them up for next time.
They come thick and fast.
What happened last night? Was it a visit from an alien? There was an anal probe. Did he take me away in his super ship? What an alien! What an alien!
I decided to go down more of a little supernatural route for my Christmas festive tales because it does seem, if you believe the internet, that people see a lot more UFOs around the Christmas period.
Yes, I got the impression that that was true.
Of course, people are probably like, oh, maybe it's Santa, or maybe it's because, people are looking up in the sky more, hoping to see a big red guy.
Big red guy.
A big guy in a red suit with the beard over their heads.
A beard over their heads?
A beard! A big red guy.
Oh.
A big guy in a red suit with a white beard.
That's the worst fucking description of Santa and his sleigh that I have ever heard. A big red guy with a beard over his head.
Yeah, it probably wasn't the best, sorry. Well, look, I don't know. Maybe people are looking up. Maybe they're trying to convince their kids that Santa's real.
And then they
elf.
see a fleet of UFOs.
Well, don't even poo-poo that because back in 1978 in New Zealand, and... You don't like my accent? New Zealand?
Took me a while to figure out what you just said. New Zealand.
Well, you were talking about Liverpool, so I thought I'd do it. New Zealand.
Liverpool. Yeah, exactly. City centre. Claire over there with the fur hair. And New Zealand.
Look, I'm not even going to go any further because It's the 70s, Geordie. I could not resist. I had to check
Oh,
out
you've done the top 3.
the top tunes.
Okay.
Look, to be fair, I just did a quick Wikipedia for number ones in New Zealand in 1978. That year is a fucking cracker, I tell you.
Oh.
We have got, and this is just over the year 1978, we've got Mull of Kintyre by Wings.
Oh, what a song. That's a good Christmas song or a New Year song.
It is indeed. We've got the Bee Gees, Staying Alive.
Staying Alive. I mean, that's classic.
You've also got You're the One That I Want.
So it's a Grease year.
It is. We've also got By the Rivers of
Babylon.
Babylon. Do you know what? I have 2 sisters. We used to pretend we were Boney
Oh,
M.
God.
Singing. I know. Poor Jen. Poor Jen having to watch a show, Mum. Come and watch a show.
You also have a brother. Could he not have been doing the squat dance next year?
If we included him, he was banished. We also had Dreadlock Holiday.
Oh, I love that song, 10cc. I don't like cricket.
Oh, no. And my all-time favourite, 1978, With a Bullet, we had Kate Bush, Wuthering Heights.
Oh, fantastic. What a year.
It was a fucking corker. Unbelievable. So I was so happy that I went back to 1978 New Zealand to look at what was going on. Back to all this supernatural stuff. In the period between Christmas and New Year, and this was in the skies above a coastal town and mountain ranges. The town was called Kaikoura. It's in the South Island of New Zealand. There were a lot of weird lights seen in the sky.
A lot.
A lot. Geordie, I'm getting to this. It's kind of crazy. In fact, if you go and search this, they're called the Kaikoura lights. It's a thing now. And that was the name the New Zealand media dubbed the whole incident. So first sightings happened on the 21st of December when the crew of a cargo plane saw these strange lights around the aircraft. Now, apparently the lights were also tracking alongside the plane for quite a few minutes before they disappeared and then reappeared. Now, according to the crew, the UFO that they saw, because it wasn't just lights, they saw a UFO.
Gosh.
They said it was big and it had 5 white flashing lights. And when I say big, the pilot described this thing as being the size of a house, literally.
Wow.
So it's a big motherfucking UFO. And it was alongside other lights that were small, but that were flashing really intensely. But for me, I think what gives this whole incident some credibility is that the UFOs were not only seen by the pilot and the crew of the plane, but these UFOs and lights also appeared on the air traffic controller radar in Wellington.
Oh,
so
it's official.
It's official. They were spotted by the air traffic controllers and they were monitored and recorded on the aircraft's onboard radar.
Do you know what? I can't stop thinking about the song 6 White Boomers, Snow White Boomers.
Why?
Smashing through the sun in the Australian sun. I don't know the words to it, but it was the alternative to Dashing Through the Snow, because Australia doesn't have snow at Christmas. Obviously, it's the height of summer.
Well, it's always the Christmas cards in Australia are Santa in a wife beater and shorts and a pair of thongs with a tinny. That's what you always have on a Christmas card. That's what an Aussie Santa looks like.
But I wonder, do they come at Christmas and that's why we've got Christmas because aliens actually invented Christmas? I don't know. I'm just riffing here. I'm riffing.
You're riffing. It could be a time slip. Who knows what's going on? But
carry on your story. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, my point with all of this stuff about the air traffic controllers and whatnot is, doesn't matter whether you think it's a UFO or not, something was out there.
Yeah.
Something was tracked. Something was recorded. So this incident got a lot of media attention. People were absolutely fascinated by these strange lights in the sky, especially the Aussies.
Why? They've got something we don't have.
Oh, those bloody New Zealanders. They've got
always
some
at war.
UFOs out there.
Always competing with each other.
They are, but New Zealand, oh, what a country. So on the 30th of December, 1978, a TV crew from Australia had flown out to New Zealand to do a series of interviews with the people who had seen the lights. Thing is, while they were on board a small cargo plane en route to Kaikoura, this TV crew literally saw what they were going to New Zealand to talk to other people about.
Oh, my God.
Yep, they saw lights out the window of this plane as well.
So, being a camera crew.
Yes, Geordie, they had all their gear with them and they actually managed to get some footage of the lights on film. Finally. And I did the research. I found a lot of that footage on YouTube.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I did. I'm going to put that on Patreon, kids.
That's worth a cup of eggnog.
A cup of eggnog on your face. And to me, I have to say, I thought it looked pretty convincing. And there is so much of it. You know, these guys just kept the camera rolling to the point where it almost gets boring because you see these lights dancing around and then strange shapes in the lights. And they really do look like a UFO. They're not just a round shape. You see the outline of
a Christmas tree.
A Christmas tree.
You've just done the shape of a Christmas tree with your hands.
Well, no, it was more like a saucer shape. So you've got like a pointy top and then a saucer shape and then a bit underneath and then you've got other shapes.
Oh, I need to see this.
Yes. Like I said, I'll pop that on the Patreon and you guys can tell me what you think. But something was out there. And the people on that plane and the ones from the first sighting, some of these are like burly, hard nut kind of New Zealand dudes. There are interviews online that you can see of these guys talking about it. They are convinced that they saw something out there. Oh. And it was not another plane. You know, it was not a weather balloon. They saw unidentified lights in the sky, which for minutes at a time could be seen by everyone on board. You know, it wasn't just one dude like, oh, there's a light. All of them saw it. And like the lights that had been seen the week before, these unidentified lights were also tracked by Wellington air traffic controllers. So 2 times these lights have appeared and been tracked. And it turns out there is bits of footage, 2 parts of this. So on the second sighting, apparently one of these UFOs followed the aircraft right up until just before they landed.
Gosh.
They landed and then the cargo plane took off again, because I guess they dropped off some cargo. They took off again with the Aussie TV crew still on board. And when the plane reached about 2,000 feet, they all saw another really brightly lit orb in the sky, which once again tracked alongside the plane for about 15 minutes. And the TV crew got their camera out and took film of this again. And it was spotted by air traffic controllers again.
Good Lord.
Now, obviously having these lights be seen twice and even filmed set off a huge investigation by the Royal New Zealand Air Force and the New Zealand Police and astronomers from the Carter Observatory in Wellington.
What are the police going to do? Sorry to interrupt. What are the police going to do about that? Stop, you're under arrest.
Aliens! Stop in your tracks. I'm not sure what the New Zealand police were doing, more than maybe, you know, they were collecting the reports from the people who had made sightings.
They were helping.
They were all kind of investigating together. Yeah. They were working as a team.
Teamwork.
And look, if you lived in Wellington, you could have gone to the National Archives where all of the reports were stored, and apparently the findings of this investigation were all there. I'm not sure if you can still go there, and I don't know if you have access to those reports, but yeah, they were stored there. So it really did happen.
Yeah.
But I have to say, Geordie, I think basically it's a bit of a dud, the findings of this investigation, because apparently the New Zealand Ministry of Defence said the sightings were nothing more than lights from squid boats below.
What's a squid boat? Oh, I see, down the bottom.
Yes.
So it was a reflection.
Reflecting off clouds.
In the sky of something in the water down below.
That's what they're saying. They were like, oh, it's squid boats.
I don't believe that. No, they've changed their tune.
Then they said, or it could have been unburnt meteors. Don't even know what that means.
Huh?
Neil, the scientist, please get in touch.
Please do write in.
They said, oh, it could have been drug runners. What?
Huh?
They said it could have been lights reflected from cabbages.
What?
From
Come on, New Zealand.
fields.
You can do better than that. Oh, my God.
They also said, oh, it could have been lights from the planet Venus or just lights from trains and cars.
But it came up on the air traffic controller's radar. So it's not a reflection. It's not an imaginary thing. It's not a thing that's not solid. It is fucking solid. Get with the program, New Zealand.
this is exactly what I was going to say. Bingo to you, because I was calling bullshit on this.
Bingo to me.
All of those stupid explanations. I mean, how can lights from a squid boat be tracked by air traffic controllers?
It can't.
No, I'm smelling a cover up here, Geordie.
Yes, it's obvious. They've made it so obvious, haven't they? With all these ridiculous cabbage reflections and meteors. Come on, mate.
This stinks of off squid, this whole investigation.
It really does. Did you do a deep dive?
Well, not really. I mean, I've got a bit more on this, but the government did insist that the sightings could be explained by natural phenomena, if not slightly unusual, is what they said. And I'm like, bullshit. So you'll love this, because there are declassified CIA documents that were revealed in 2021 when they were doing all the declassy stuff.
Oh, yes.
That did take the sightings one step further, because the CIA say, in their opinion, the sightings were, quote, unique among civilian UFO reports because there is a large amount of documentary evidence, which includes the recollections of 7 witnesses, 2 tape recordings made during the sightings, the detection of some unusual ground and airplane radar targets, and the 16mm colour footage of all of it. In fact, the declassified government documents show officials really struggled with the TV footage that showed the UFOs, but ultimately, in a report submitted to the United Nations in January 1979, the CIA classified the objects as UFOs until identified.
Okay, so not squid lights.
No, they said it was an unidentified flying object.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, but they also then countered that by saying, quote, the prospect of extraterrestrial intervention is extremely remote.
Intervention?
Yes. So they're saying that the idea that it's aliens tracking alongside, this and that is remote.
Okay. Well, what do they think it is then? They're not going to say.
Well, they're saying it's unidentified until identified.
Well, it won't be identified now unless they come back.
Of course it's not. That's just saying, it's in the too hard basket.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. I wonder how many more incidents like that there are in the too hard basket.
I bet a fuckload.
Yeah.
Really. But apparently there were 2 bits of footage that were taken of the Kaikoura lights. So someone took it of the first incident. And it was a guy called Crockett. I don't know his first name. It's just called Crockett.
Crockett.
And the other bit of footage was by that TV1 film crew, the Aussies. Now, the declassified report says that both of the bits of footage are distorted and that the piece of film from Crockett is kind of now considered dodgy because there are visual discrepancies that can be produced by filming through the window of an Argosy plane, which is the type of plane that was the cargo plane they were on. And apparently the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, called DSIR, they actually did some experiments and managed to duplicate Crockett's footage by shining a torch onto the plane's window. So his footage is now considered a dud. But the footage from the Aussie TV1 crew was not as easy to debunk because apparently it was shot straight through the plane window. There was no distortion produced by filming, but the DSIR are not willing to say one way or another that the whole thing is real or not because they say, there are some aberrations in the film that make it hard to analyse. But they say that they are going to convert the film to digital and try and erase any distortions to get a clearer picture of what that footage is.
When are they doing that?
Well, TBC. Who knows?
Oh, God.
I know. But they also say that atmospheric conditions could explain false radar readings at both the Christchurch and Wellington air traffic control towers because apparently Christchurch picked up something as well. I mean, look, who am I to argue with that? That could very well be true.
We don't know the facts.
But basically, they are not willing to say one way or another whether the lights and the objects that were filmed are more than just general illumination, possibly produced by Jupiter or Venus on the horizon, and that's what was seen and filmed. I don't believe that because we had 7 witnesses saying those lights tracked the plane. The plane landed, went back up, and then tracked them again. That's not just Venus. You know, that's...
What do you think they're tracking a plane for?
Look, I don't know.
If they were indeed aliens.
Well, I don't know. But off the back of my story the other week about Linda. Oh, my God, Linda, you got to come over. You know, Linda Napolitano and the Manhattan alien abduction.
Yeah.
I did think, could it be that they saw this plane, if it was aliens, and then they want to go back to that same area to see if another plane is coming? Who knows what they were doing, tracking. But people who see aliens or have abductions often are abducted more than once. Maybe if it was an alien ship, maybe they were trying to see like our technology, how fast we can go. Were they tracking alongside to think, okay, they're essentially doing 20k an hour and we can do this. Like, I don't know. Shall we ask them? Call them up.
I think that planes do not a lot faster than 20k an hour, by the way.
No, but in terms of their speed, it's like...
Oh, I see. Okay.
So for them...
I thought for a moment, that you might have thought that planes
of course not.
actually stay up in the air just doing 20 kilometres.
No.
And that's why it takes so long to get to Australia.
It's just 20k an hour. School zone.
It's crawling.
No, in comparison to their capabilities, you know, it's like we're crawling along at 20k. That's what I was trying to get my point across.
I see.
Sorry.
Comparatively, yes, because they're supersonic, of course. But maybe they're not. Maybe they're learning from, if it's true, obviously, I'm not going to talk like it's true, but if it was aliens and they were tracking our technology, perhaps they thought, oh, that's even more fancy than what we've got. We want one of them.
Yes. Who knows? Or they could have been like, child's play. Look at these dickheads. They think they're like so fancy in the sky, but you know, we did that 1,000 years ago.
What's intriguing to me is the fact that if these things are really extraterrestrial and from another civilization or another time or another whatever, not what we know in the current world, then why don't we know more? Why is it just these little glimpses, these half-remembered dreams of abductions, of lights in the sky that end up being unexplained and there's no answer to it? Why isn't there something more concrete? Why isn't there something more, this happened? I mean, there is that Travis, what's his name? I can't remember his last name, Fire in the Sky guy. But people think that he's mad. And that's quite often abductees or people with more information get written off as delusional.
It's too scary to think that it's real. It's too frightening to think that what happened to them actually happened, because then it opens up this discussion that people are too terrified to have.
But there are so many more scary things, Michelle. The substance, for one, by the sound of it. But there are so many more scary things. I think that people can handle it.
Yes, definitely. There are scary things out there in the world, not just on film.
I mean, sharks, they're scary. What else is there? Murderers, they're scary.
That's a known quantity.
Now it's known. But then everything was unknown at one point.
Yes, but that is within our realm of understanding. We know what a shark is. We know what a murderer is.
Now we do.
A shark is an animal. A murderer is a human. An alien has no shape, no form. How do they breathe? What do they eat? We do nothing. It's the unknown.
Oh, because we don't know enough about it for it to exist.
Yes. That's what I think people are terrified by. They are terrified by the
existentially
unknown. Yes.
threatening.
Yes. Very well put.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
At least I've done my job for the day.
New Zealand's over. I'm moving on, Geordie.
Oh,
I'm moving on.
Bye, New Zealand.
Bye, New Zealand. I'm moving to New York because I was a little bit inspired by Linda.
And her Manhattan experience. Go back a couple of episodes if you don't know what we're talking about.
So I found a great list, and it was New Yorkers who'd reported seeing strange things on Christmas Day. Starting with Christmas Day 1999, I've done no music for any of this. At around 7:30 at night, a Poughkeepsie man, and this is not New York City, it's New York State.
Outside, yes.
They're very private, no names here.
Right.
He'd gotten a telescope for Christmas. So he was out on the back deck of his house. He was looking up at the stars. He said the sky was pretty overcast. So it was a bit of a dud, but, he was excited to have this telescope. But then, out of nowhere, in the northeastern part of the sky, he saw a large chevron/boomerang shape moving slowly under the cloud layer.
Oh.
He said the object had a slight orange glow and was absolutely silent. It then passed beyond the tree line, and that was the last he saw of it.
Isn't that the shape of a plane, though?
A chevron boomerang?
Well, if you think about it, the wings that go tilted back slightly, and then if it was dark, it could have been just the underside of a plane.
I can't believe you're poo-pooing this, because I was going to say, what do you think? But you've just...
I think it's a plane.
You think it's a plane. All right, okay. Well, sorry, Poughkeepsie man. You've been cancelled. A year later, Christmas Day 2000, at around 6:30 p.m, a woman from Buffalo, New York, decided to go outside to fill up her bird feeders with birdseed when she saw a boomerang-shaped object traveling really fast. And the only reason she could make out its shape was because it was glowing white. And then it just disappeared.
Glowing white, that's different.
I was thinking, before you said, it's just a plane, I was thinking, what is with all these boomerang-shaped UFOs? So I went to Quora, our favourite.
Fantastic.
Loads of people, Geordie, have seen weird boomerang-shaped UFOs. And this story comes from a Quora user called Katie Ryan. Now, I was hoping for Stiff-Neck Lady or Hunchback Gorilla or whatever, but we didn't. We got Katie Ryan. She says back in around 2002, 2003, in Bandera County in Texas, she said her sister and she were cruising home after dark down Highway 46 towards Highway 16. It was a clear, cloudless night and the stars were bright. She says, though there was no moon, we noticed a huge, sharp, linear cloud low across the road. And it looked like it could be 3/4 of a mile wide.
Far out.
As we approached it, we could feel the energy and the air shift as we passed underneath it when they were driving.
I don't like that.
She said we could see ourselves move under it.
What?
I mean, I guess they looked up and they could see some kind of reflection.
Reflection, right.
She says it was strange because we could see the cloud ship above us, but we could also see the stars through it.
Oh, my God. This is reminding me of Nope.
That's exactly what I thought too. It's a little bit Nope-esque. She says it felt like a mirage. We travelled under it for half a mile. That's a lot.
That's too long for me to be underneath something so creepy.
I know, especially when you think this could fucking drop on me and we are done. But she said, yeah, they travelled under it for half a mile or so before we saw ourselves come out from under another sharp linear line in the sky.
What?
She says the energy in the air shifted back to normal and we no longer saw a mirage above us. We continued to watch the shape in the rearview mirror until we moved out of sight of it. She said it was so big. We never told anyone about it because it was just too weird. Now I wonder if anyone else ever saw it or anything like it.
Had anyone else seen it?
Well, no one had replied to this bloody Quora message.
Oh, she's just left hanging.
I know. I found that quite...
That's shocking.
Yeah, it was quite disturbing. So, of course, I went digging more and I found another Quora user called Casey Liguri. Love this one. She says, tonight I saw a star-like object moving quite fast across the night sky and later it disappeared. What is that? She goes on to say, I've been seeing these more and more. They come from all directions in the sky. I see sometimes 4 or more in a night.
Where does she live?
Oh, she doesn't say. She's in America.
Okay.
She says these lights come from all directions in the sky. She sometimes sees 4 or more a night. They are as bright and tiny as the stars in the sky, but they move quickly. They are not satellites because I have an app that tracks them. They sometimes look like they go dim or disappear and then reappear unless there is a cloud blocking the view. I don't know, she says.
Wow.
I have to say, Geordie, I see shit like this all the time.
The mountain.
All the time on the mountain. I come home from work quite late in the evening and when I look up, because I always look up and I look over the mountain, I see exactly what she's talking about. And I always wonder, what the fuck are these things? They are not stars because they move. Sometimes they shoot across.
God.
They sometimes move back to where they were.
No.
They dim. They are bright. They reappear. They go away. It's not just clouds. So I hear you, Casey Liguri.
Perhaps you should take to Kaikoura, Michelle, and ask the question.
Oh, I wouldn't do that.
No?
What would my name be?
respond to this lady because she's just left hanging. Your name would be, let's see, I'm a believer, 77.
Do you know what I would call it? Maggot 007. That's what I call myself. Casey goes on to say about 15 to 18 years ago, it was a clear August night and a meteor shower was happening. My friends and I went to a field close to my house and laid down to watch the shower. Eventually, I noticed first that these 3 stars that almost formed a triangle looked as if they were dim. And finally, one of them went out completely. And a few seconds later, it came back on, for lack of a better word. Lol.
Lol.
Lol. And then 2 of the 3 stars would go out and then come back on. She says, we were shook. I think she means shaken. And couldn't believe what we were seeing. Then the stars started moving across the sky. And I was finally convinced these aren't stars. And I'll never forget one of the stars started moving as if it was a bouncy ball going downstairs.
Oh my gosh, that would freak me out.
I know. And she said it made that same type of movement.
Doink, doink, doink.
Yeah, exactly, a doink. It looked as if it had bounced down 3 steps. We were all stunned and we were saying how no one is going to believe us when we tell them what we saw. And it's honestly true, people. You know, people were just like, oh yeah, that happened. She says, I've been trying to see if anyone knows what the heck these things are, but I can't seem to find anything. And then she has an edit from October 2024, just a couple of months ago.
Yes.
She says, this might not be believable to some, but I'm not in the business of lying. She says, I finally got my fiancé to sit outside with me and show him all the moving things.
Yeah.
He was so shocked. A little while later, it's about 5:24 a.m. We are lying on my old trampoline and looking up at the stars, and all of a sudden, we see this massive black triangle come slowly floating above the treetops, like as high as my house, maybe a little higher. No lights were on it, and it makes its way slowly behind a tree and out of sight. My fiancé was recording, and you can hear the point we are both like, what the fuck? And I have not seen that video.
She needs to post that.
I know. It's like, Casey, post the fucking video. Give us all a fucking happy Christmas.
To be honest, it is quite frightening, Michelle, I have to say. I said earlier, come on, everything's going to be frightening to us at one point. We can all handle it. I don't think I could handle that.
I don't think so. And she didn't either, because she says, I must have said her fiance's name about 37,282 times because I was so shocked. So she's obviously going, oh my God, Linda. Not that her boyfriend's called Linda. But
Come
anyway.
on over.
Oh my God. You know, she says, weirdly, in the video, you can barely make it out. But we can see the shadow of it. And it's so strange because right before it.
And their reactions.
Yeah. Right before it came above our heads and we saw the underbody of it. The video gets fuzzy grainy seconds before. And then it's so fast in video compared to real life. So strange. Life is so weird now. Legit, I'm just like, what is this?
Legit, I'm just like, what is this?
Yeah, she does not know.
She's been changed.
She's been changed. And then she says, also, side note from my fiancé, he made a good point because I always see the moving stars from 3 to 5. I guess she's a night worker, shift worker.
Oh, I see. Yes.
And he said to her, it's like they're all definitely going home, lol. And she said, yeah, like probably after a long night working the sky, they're going home. Like she's going home.
Yeah. So they've been there all night long. What do they do, though? Do they just stay there? Do they take off or do they...
Well, I don't know.
What about the other side of the world, the New Zealand side?
I don't know. Get in touch, peeps. All of you Antipodeans in that hemisphere, get in touch. What do you see in the sky? We'd love to know. And if you see Santa, let us know.
Yeah, those skies, they're so clear. You'll be able to see a lot on a clear night. Incredible. I'm really shocked by all that, Michelle, actually. I'm a little shook myself.
You're a little shook up.
Swear down.
You know, that's all I got for you.
Well, that's plenty.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry fucking Christmas.
Ho, ho, ho. Hum, hum, hum. That's the end of this Eavesdroppin' episode, my friends and eavesdroppers and Michelle. From now until next week, we're going to bid you a farewell and just remind you of 3 things.
Wherever you are.
Whatever you do.
Just
keep eavesdropping.
Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping. Eavesdropping.